Well, your film can't be faulted for its timeliness. In fact, as testament to that, it's already dated. In the film, you've got that ship that has research.
Yeah, it's now
on
painted.
That's now painted over
Yeah.
because what's happened, the Japanese have basically said, look guys, we're going to give up this pretense of scientific whaling.
That's right.
We're just going back to commercial whaling. We're taking the research sign off the side of the ship, and that is a figurative middle finger to everybody else. We're going to go ahead and do what we want. Is that a fair summation of what's happening now?
That's exactly what's happening.
How did you feel when that decision came through?
Look, I mean, I kind of knew, you know, even though they sort of backed down, we knew they were going to be, you know, would turn around and do something like this. You know, I think that was pretty evident. I mean, for me, you know, in terms of, you know, just going back to this idea of, you know, whether it's one-sided or, you know, I mean, I just see this, you know, this film's kind of my opinion, you know, and, you know, whales have, you know, the largest brains on the planet. They've got highly advanced, you know, social structures like humans. I mean, I think in 100 years we'll look back, if we're still around, we'll look back and go, well, they were probably just as, you know, advanced as humans, you know, and look at it as murder. You know, whales have been tied for you know, millennia into the stability of climate change, you know, and you know, with whale reductions, you know, they used to bring nutrients up from the bottom of the ocean to the surface, and they were tied into climate regulation, and you know, so that's just one thing amongst many that's just gone awry now, you know. So, you know, they filled a climate niche. Obviously, there's the, you know, animal rights niche, and yeah. Why
are the Japanese so tied in, so addicted to whaling? I mean, have you ever eaten whale? Does it taste great?
No, and you know, and less and less people in Japan eat whale now. I mean, no one eats whale anymore. It's, you know, it's seen as a delicacy, but you know, not many people consume it.
What's the connection between Japan and whale, and why won't they?
Well, we think that our best guess, and Sea Shepherd's best guess, and Paul Watson's best guess, is that, you know, who's starting, you know, Sea Shepherd and he co-founded Greenpeace, is that, you know, in Antarctica they're going to be opening up, you know, mining rights, and you know, all that's going to get opened up over the next you know, couple of decades. And Japan are going to be able to say, well, we've been down in the area, you know, we've had a commercial interest, we've had a vested interest, and we deserve a little bit of the territory. And that's our best guess to why they're there. You know, and I think it's got very little to do with whales. You know, a couple of years back, which actually stopped the Sea Shepherd going down there, the Japanese government announced that the Japanese military would provide real-time satellite data to the Japanese whaling fleet, so they could see where the Sea Shepherd ships were in advance. And you know, once they did that, it was like game over, because there's no way you could defeat that, you know, that advance warning.
Okay, it is noble, I guess, when people put themselves in harm's way for a cause they believe in.
Yeah.
But I think it's fair to say, Stephen, that there is a difference between brave and crazy brave.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Some might say stupid brave.
Yeah.
Now, from what's captured on film, we've got two large vessels and a much smaller vessel interceding, going in between them. And this is during rough seas.
Yeah.
My understanding of the way big, massive ships work, in terms of how they can manoeuvre, in the situation that the ship is in the film, if the wrong combination of elements came together, wind, wave crest and so on, that little ship could have been crushed. One of the big ships could have slammed into it and crushed it against the other. It could have creased the hull and either damaged the ship or made it sink. People could have died during that manoeuvre. What is, even given your allegiance to the cause, do you think they went too far? Do you think that they were kind of erring on the side of crazy brave rather than just brave?
Look, I think, having known them now, you know, and I know how they operate, I think it's all, there's a great deal of calculated risk. I think they're very experienced captains. who are helming the ships. I think particularly in this particular case with Peter Hammerstead, captaining the ship, I mean, he was incredibly experienced, and I think everything they were doing was a calculated risk. It was even that choice of ship. Any ship could have gone in to take position, but the Bob Barker was ice strengthened. Had the strongest hull.
Okay.
It didn't have the helicopter deck. Yes, they knew they were going to get in the way. That particular scene in the film actually played out over 2 days, and there was a number of attempts for the Nishin Maru, which is the big, factory, abattoir, floating abattoir, to refuel, and so that actually went over a couple of days, and I ended up kind of conflating it down to a limited amount of time. But they held that position. No doubt, out there is dangerous. But that tanker's out there illegally. That shouldn't have been. They can only come down so far south. It's actually illegal to be there.
So, what do you think is going to be happening with this issue? I mean, the film will come out. Given that the Japanese have actually made the situation worse than when the film was made or when that footage was shot, what do you think is the future? They're just going to keep going out or is the international community, is Australia going to actually put their foot down and say, enough of this?
Look, I don't know. I think I don't know what. I mean, Australia hasn't done much so far. Even when they were down there, in the waters, we could have sent a ship down there, and we didn't. I think, for me as a film, it's about, as I said before, it's an anti-whaling film. But for me, the film is about activism, and again, it's about activism within art as well. From my point of view, and for me, it's about inspiring people, and it's not inspiring people to join up to Sea Shepherd necessarily. It's about how we all have the capacity to go out and kind of stand up for what we believe in. Particularly, I see direct correlation with the environmental crisis that we're in now, and I think young kids need to be really inspired that they can. Many drops of water make a mighty river, right? So that's what the film's about.
I need to ask you about the barbecue.
Okay.
I'm ethically and morally obliged to do so because I did interview Shane Jacobson, who's a wonderful guy. Look, I'm not a fan of the movie, but Shane Jacobson did challenge me. He said, I'd like to see a critic read a script and make a call after reading the script. So can you just tell me what you think happened to the film? Were you happy with the film that was up there?
Look, I think I can. That's a number of answers on that one. But
please.
I think the first thing is that particularly running a distribution company now, getting people out to the cinemas is really difficult, as we know. It's and I think definitely the barbecue suffered from that general kind of malaise of.
Malaise about Australian films in particular?
No, I think it's difficult just in general now. I mean, a great example is, we released the James Cameron documentary.
Yes.
It was one of the first projects Label had. So all of these projects, feature docs, had been taking, $4 or $5 million at the box office. This came along, it was as good, if not better, than the others. We had a really great P&A budget. We got Jim out to tour Australia. We did all the press. He did absolutely anything that you would want. We had. That film took $200,000 at the Australian box office and New Zealand, including New Zealand. And that to me really kind of showed how social media and handheld devices and eating away and nibbling away at theatrical. It's not only is it hard now to get a film theatrical, but it's just incredibly difficult to get people out of their homes to come and see a film. Because
they'll turn out for The Lion King, and they'll all turn out for mediocre American product. This is you have to excuse me.
And they're branded. They've got really great P&A budgets.
They're on TV advertising it 4 weeks before release. So when they go to the foyer on the Thursday or the Friday night, they see the poster. Oh yeah, we saw that ad for this. Some stupid sequel about some cop and his idiot brother going out, whatever it is. Some assembly line comedy.
You've even got to fight for, kind of poster space, to be in the right position. And it's all a real kind of struggle, and particularly for your Australian films. The average across, attendance was 15 seats. That's what it was a few years ago. I think it's even less now. Maybe a Friday night's got 70, and midday on a Monday has got 1 or 2. You encounter, and even opening days are tough. The barbecues are kind of interesting because, you know, that was, I mean, we went into that knowing exactly what it was, and everything in that was kind of no accident. Now, whether that was for good or ill, but it was thoroughly kind of conceived to kind of hit the sweet spot in the market, which there's many people for that demographic that really enjoyed it. The film's made all its money back. The film's made all its P&A back. Now, as far as I know, that's like almost unheard of with any Australian film.
Can you just unpack that a little bit for me? Because
yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to be fair to the film.
Yeah.
What was the budget on it, and how much is it?
So the film was 3.8 million.
Right, you know? And it's made.
The P&A was heading up to $1 million.
Right.
And, you know, we're in the black. And that's like, what, a little over 18 months on?
And this is through DVD sales, through streaming sales and so on?
Yeah, theatrical, it's all the windows, and we're in the black with it.
Okay, so it is fair to say, as I've been telling people recently, that a film that initially fails theatrically, in this wonderful 21st century movie market we have, there are all these other platforms now that it can then go to and find its audience post-theatrical, which never used to be the case. It used to be if you don't hit at the theatres, you're dead.
Yep.
But now, okay, it didn't work in cinemas, unfortunately. Whatever went wrong, it hurt it. But now on streaming, people can discover the film, and word of mouth can help it.
Absolutely. And I'm really just sitting here on the fence with it. I'm not saying it's good or bad or, you know, whatever, even though I may have made it. I mean, it's not the film I set out to make. I can say that. I had, there was many rewrites just before production, so we could trigger money, and that's a whole other kind of conversation. But so things happened to it just on the eve of production that I don't think were a good thing, and were kind of out of my control. But anyway, we went into it and we made kind of the best film we could. It was definitely an ambitious film for the budget, with all those extras and, you know, locations, and, you know, maybe overly ambitious. But, you know, all my films are low budget, ambitious films. But you know, we and, you know, the budget was conceived in a really, you know, kind of radical way, you know, and the whole thing was made in a very interesting way. And
can I, if it's not pressing you, I am genuinely interested to know what occurred just before production. You're saying that in order to get extra money, you needed to make changes?
Oh, look, we had lots of script changes. In fact, I almost totally rewrote the script. So, you know, I mean, I don't want to get into too much detail because it's political, but and there's, you know, other partners, but, you know, there was, there's a lot of rewriting across Christmas. You know, we had to shoot in February. We had to go into pre and Jan, and we had to shoot in Feb because we had to deliver the film for the following Christmas. And we had some major sponsorship money that had come in, you know, and if we hadn't have shot at that point, we would have lost all that money as well. And obviously then the offset and everything would have just crumbled away. So we really had to shoot, and we had, you know, it's just kind of partners that would refuse to cash flow unless there were certain script changes, and you know, I think that was like really bad.
Okay, and, but at the time you were doing the rewrites, I've been very careful not to press the wrong buttons.
That's right.
But I'm just genuinely interested in the creative process. Yeah. So you had Shane and the rest of the cast signed on when those changes were made?
No, a little after. Oh, sorry, a little before. Yeah. So you know, they came on board. The script was a little different. It was more of a comedy than a feel-good film. Eventually, I went into production thinking, well, I'm not really going to make this as a comedy. It's going to be more of a family-friendly feel-good film, which is what it ended up.
Yeah.
You know? I think people were expecting to go in and see like a comedy, you know. But
so generally speaking, a film, a writer-director. Can write a screenplay that he's very happy with.
That's right.
And then send it out to
some of Australia's best talent.
They read that script and go,
Yeah.
I'm on board. Let's go. Let's make this film. Yeah. They commit to the movie.
That's right.
And you're ready to make it.
Yeah.
But before production, things happen, and you have to rewrite the script that changes the character of the project that everyone signed up with, and that's the film that you need to go shoot.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Thank you so much for
and I know, you know, I mean, well, it should be said, you know, and I could say more, but you know, it was and you know, Shane knows, and you know, they know
Okay.
just yeah.
Okay, and I'm being totally honest here. See, for me, it's very easy for me.
Well, it's
It's very easy
audience,
for critics
they
to
just
say.
see what they see.
Yeah, it's very easy for critics to say, and I do say it, and I'll keep saying it, that, you know, once a screenplay has got all the air bubbles squeezed out of it, and the writer says, this is it, this is the film, a director says, yes, this is the script we will go with, and everyone signs off on it, and everyone ticks it, that's the film that then goes into production. But obviously, even after commitments like that, and even after someone says, this is the script of my life, this is the best thing it is still possible before production for certain forces, to come in and say, this is going to have to change if you want the money.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, it's unfortunate, isn't it?
Oh, it is, and you know, the whole thing. Look, you know, it's. I kind of exited that and thought, you know, do I really want to kind of make movies? But you know, I've been doing it since I was 10.
Right.
And I really, you know, I mean, it's my life. So that's
but it has been. It's a good thing. The film has made its money.
Well, you know, and that's a credit to, you know, the way that we financed it, the way that we distributed it.
Okay.
You know, I think, you know, but the thing is, when we went into it, it was all, we kind of knew how we were going to kind of unroll it all the way through.
You don't have to say anything to this, but I imagine that some of the pressures had to do with some of the brands that are mentioned in the film.
No.
Okay. Probably not much point of me pushing any further on this. So just quickly with the 25th Reich.
Yeah.
How did life for that pan out? I know Iron Sky came out at around the same time.
Yeah.
But how did your film, your crazy little movie?
Actually, it went really well. It was like, even now, each week I'll get emails. Like, I will literally get emails now asking, you know, where the sequel is, that we love the film. I think it's found another life again on VOD. And, you know, it was interesting touring that around the globe, because, you know, you realise there's all these kind of fantastic film festivals and, you know, sci-fi film festivals. And so it really found a niche, and, you know, those guys are, you know, and girls are passionate. Like
the fanboy
are
crowd,
yeah. You know, they really loved it, and you know, for a while I kind of toyed around with the sequel, but you know, it's just not. I just wanted to move on, but I mean, it ends with a clip that you know, look, it's meant to be an out of the vault, you know, found, you know, B movie from, you know, that's kind of a World War II creature feature.
Yeah.
You know, and celebrating all that's good and all that's really bad with that kind of thing. So, you know, so some people will, you know, at the time of release looked at it and thought, you know, saw the poster and thought, oh, this is going to be like a James Cameron film, when really it was like a Ray Harryhausen, you know, kind of, you know, bad, schlocky B movie. It's a celebration also of, you know, those Aussie exploitation films we used to make. You know.
What's next, mate?
I've got a few films, I'm just developing a few kind of features, and I've got another feature doc idea, but there's a couple of other features that I'm looking at that are getting close to financing. So they're all dramas, so that, you know.
And you started making films when you were 10 years old.
I did, yeah.
What were you shooting on?
Super 8.
Super 8 film?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are they in the vault somewhere?
They are. I had them all transferred to DVD like a little while back, and I used to cut grass in the neighbourhood, so I'd do all the neighbours' houses, I'd do our house, my grandfather's house, and in return all that pocket money used to go and buy film and just, you know, and buy Super 8 film. Yeah.
Can I ask you as a final question, started making films at 10, you're 52 now, do you have any general observation that characterises the film industry right now? Just what your view of it is, how can it improve, what's the biggest fault, are you generally happy with the filmmaking firmament as it is?
Look, I mean, that's a number of answers, I guess, and it could be kind of broken apart, but I think we've got this big attachment with cinema. You know, look, I love the big screen, I really do, but I do think that its time has kind of come a little, that maybe you know, not that I mean, we've all got big kind of, you know, widescreen TVs now, and they're all, you know, flat, and you know, get your 5:1 surround, and I think the whole nature of how we look at films has obviously changed. You know, I still love the cinema space, but I do think, you know, particularly things like, you know, in Australia with the offset, the producers offset, that still is tied into theatrical, and I think my feeling is that needs to kind of change a little bit because time has just moved on. I mean, it's a very it's really difficult now to make your P&A back and your budget back from theatrical. It's really tricky, and when you've got the offset tied to that, it's just the equation doesn't quite work anymore. So the idea of maybe broadening the offset, to accommodate other platforms, I think is a positive idea. Like I said before, I think it's never been a better time for filmmakers to actually make a film, a little indie film. The equipment's cheap, you can go out and do it. Nothing is really stopping you. There's a plethora of, when I started, there was 2 film schools in Australia. There was Swinburne and the AFTRS, and now they're everywhere. So going out and even getting crew that want to make their first feature or something is kind of easier to do. Getting it under the nose of your audience is easier to do. VOD and targeted social media and all that kind of stuff. And even the nature of doesn't even have to be restricted now to 2 hours. It can be any format. It's like just throw the cards up in the air and be inventive. It was my first feature doc, so my inspirations were Grizzly Man.
The Werner Herzog film.
The Herzog Grizzly
That's
Man.
Might be one of the best documentaries ever made.
It's amazing, and he took all that. That footage had existed. He took all that, shot more interviews, and kind of pieced it together. It's the editorial that makes these things really kind of work as much as what's on screen. It literally took 2.5 years to cut. It was insane. And the other film was March of the Penguins, but the French version, not the English remade one. So those 2 films kind of guided me.
Did you get paid to make this film?
No, so I raised a crowdfunding campaign. I ran it through their social media. So we had about 700 people worldwide that participated. So we raised a substantial amount of money, and then I put in a whole bunch of money as well. I'd been paid before then. I was doing some commercials and promo videos for them, but that was a whole other kind of thing. So
you didn't get paid for this film?
No, it was really a work of love.
How do you make a living? Do you make commercials and stuff, or?
Yeah, I'll do that, and I've just got I've got lots of different projects going. There's a lot of stuff in development that I've got. So I've got my company Revolution Pictures, and that's been we've been doing quite a bit through that company. There's some US projects that are getting really close to getting up. So there's a development deal we've got with one of the studios in the US. So there's just lots of things, but until the script's ready, it's like I was doing this movie, Defend, Conserve, Protect. I was doing the barbecue, so that was my wage while I was kind of doing that.
Do you have to be a little bit insane to be an Australian filmmaker?
Oh, totally, yeah. You've got to be persistent, absolutely persistent, and you're a bit entrepreneurial as well. Otherwise you're just going to kind of get lost. But you've got to love it. I think if you don't love it and you're not willing to kind of die for it, which is insane. But if you don't have that real drive, I think it's too difficult. You'd be lost along the way.
Richard Lowenstein mentioned to me when I was interviewing him about Mr. He just spoke about the death of independent cinema in Australia. Are you now, as a distributor, feeling that? The death of Australia, of independent cinema in Australia, that it's just harder and harder to get audiences in to small films.
Yeah, I think we're so used to the theatrical format, and of course, that came about because we needed that many bums on seats to turn a profit. But that whole paradigm's changed now. So this kind of fixation on theatrical, I think we're relying on less and less.
Right.
It's difficult for us that have come up through that mechanism to change.
Right. But
I do think that it has the ability to change, and I think for an independent cinema, it's probably never been an easier time. Film gear is cheap. It's never been easy to make a movie, really, or a low budget film. And it's probably never been easier to get that in front of your target market as well. It just means that it doesn't necessarily mean theatrical.
Right.
But I see it as a little loss for the big screen, which I know and love, and like many others. But at the same time, there's many other opportunities that have come up.